market rates and realigning your your organization's compensation structure with the structure that the organization would want to follow. Okay, so not that you would have much in your hand to do or control unless they hire you for a CNB role. Even if they hire you for a CNB role, you will in the initial years you will only be facilitating with more of the data compilation and restoration work, and then doing more of a strategic job, because it takes time, dexterity, understanding of certain market references to get into designing a compensation structure. But however, what we'll try and do is, because you're a HR professional, and I'm sure this would be a part of your curriculum while you do your MBA or your masters, they would certainly explain you how one goes about creating a compensation structure. What I have tried to do is I've made it very crisp. Otherwise, this course is like almost a when you talk about a full-term MBA program, it will become almost about a 16 to a 20 odd lecture sort of a program, out of which not less than 5 to 6 lectures is what are being spent on designing a compensation structure. So I'm going to give you a very crisp module on how do we design a compensation structure. Okay, I'm just going to quickly share my slide and just let me know if my slides are visible to you. Is the slide visible?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Can you see it now?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
No such plan. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Visible.
Yes, sir.
It's visible now. What does my slide says?
Yes, sir.
Just designing a compensation
Designing
structure.
a compensation structure.
वाह, सब 1 करोड़ रुपए जीत गए.
Designing a compensation structure.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you. Great. So all of you can see the slides, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Yes, sir.
So now my question, before I get down further, what do you think? What is essentially required when you start looking at designing a compensation structure? What all do you look at? What do you think is an important? What is
Yes, sir.
really important ingredient to create a compensation structure? Yes, please. Answer, bhai, there are 92 people in the session. Almost like two batches attending a lecture. So what do you think is essential for designing a compensation structure? All of you are from HR, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So what do you think requires for a successful compensation structure? Why do you need a compensation structure? Let's put it that way.
Motivate the employees.
Okay, that's Pratibha, right?
To maintain perfect ROI.
Perfect ROI. Okay. What else?
Relation between the company and the employees.
How would you explain that further, Muzna?
When we give compensation to the employees, they'll be more related to the company.
So are you saying compensation single-handedly plays an important role?
Yeah, kind of, sir.
Is it a hygiene factor or it's a motivation factor?
Both, sir.
Which year of MBA are you in?
First year.
Have you
Second
done
year, sir.
compensation as a study? Not yet.
No, sir.
Maslow's hierarchy?
No, sir. We are just in second sem.
Okay. All right. So when you'll study
Oh.
Maslow's Hertzberg two-factor theory, is when you would understand that when you talk about compensation these days is no more a motivational factor, it's a hygiene factor, which is a given thing. okay, for an organization to do. So when you say that it motivates, yes, it motivates. See, when you do a two-factor correlation study, you will find a lot of people will, of course, talk about compensation being the primary factor. But when you deep dive or you do a dipstick survey, you realize that money is not the only factor that today's, especially the Gen Y and the Gen Z, stay back in an organization. There's a lot more to do than just compensation. I think whatever you guys have highlighted has helped me to put up a base. Understand, when we talk about a compensation structure, the key to designing a successful compensation plan is the primary reason why you would want to have a compensation structure in place is, one, you ensure that you have a pay for everyone and which is paid fairly across roles, across domains. And when you say pay fairly, doesn't mean that if I am giving let's say if I'm giving Ravi an X rupee who's an employee in, let's say, the sales department, I am giving let's say Mehak and a Y rupee which is an employee in the Z department, in, let's say, let's say in a accounts department, to, let's say, I'm giving C to somebody who is like a employee in my technical department. So when I say pay fairly, means that this A, B, C, whatever things I'm talking about is going to be different for different people based on how difficult their role is or how challenging their job is. Why do pilots in a company get paid more than a cabin crew in the same plane? Right? Because cabin crew is just, although they are also have a higher chance of risk while they are flying on the aircraft, but the entire responsibility of ensuring that the people travel safely, they cover the distance that they are required to cover, operating on the aircraft and everything, and then ensuring proper take-ups, proper landing, everything is to be done and handled by pilots, is the reason why a pilot is paid more than a cabin crew. So when I say pay everyone fairly, doesn't mean that I will, if I'm giving 1 rupee to one person, I will continue to give 1 to everybody. Okay? So it means that I will look at the criticality of the job, how critical the job is, and accordingly I'll design my compensation structure. I will also ensure I do not overpay. What do I mean by that? That I do not overpay? I mean to say that when I'm looking at two different people in my industry, in, let's say, if I'm talking about, let's take a classic example of a FMCG. If I am talking about a sales guy for let's say in Pepsi, who's selling beverage for us, and then I talk about a person who's into another department, let's say accounts. Okay, when I look at these two people, I also look at my competitors. What I start to do is, I look at if Pepsi में sales के बंदे को X salary दे रहा हूँ, then I would look at Coca-Cola and I would look at the sales guy that does the same job selling beverage to the customer. How much compensation is he getting? And then I look at the industry rate, which is the beverage industry all put together. So be it Pepsi, be it Hindustan Coca-Cola, be it other beverage companies, how do they pay their sales employee? So then I decide that, okay, given that this is my rate, this is my competitor's rate, and this is my market rate, which is where I do not want to overpay my employees. So I would want to just maintain either right above the market strategy or right below the market strategy, which we'll discuss in later slides, which strategy is better when we talk about payments. So one, I would want to retain then comes the point of retaining my critical employees. So if I have paid everyone fairly, I have ensured that there's no overpay that I do, then I'm also will try and think of that if let's say tomorrow a role becomes critical, and if that business continuity of that the entire business depends on this particular person's role or on this particular role, and there's no successor to it, then I might pay this person a little differently than what I am paying right now, so that I am able to retain and control this critical talent across the organization. And then finally, I also look at, after having done all of this, I create a compensation philosophy for my organization, so that tomorrow if 10 people come up to me and say that these people are paid differently and I am paid differently, you have a proper justification to why somebody is being paid more and why somebody is being paid less, and what's the reason and rationale behind it. So there's a reason that, so the key ingredient that goes in making a perfect compensation plan is looking at the critical employees. How can you retain them? You do not still overpay, you are paying everyone fairly, and there's a compensation philosophy to which you adhere. Not that you go haywire. Today somebody comes up with a resignation, you increase his salary. Tomorrow the other 10 people will start following the same footsteps and start resigning and start getting retained. So a compensation plan has to have all these essential features ingrained in them. And writing a successful compensation plan requires you to determine what is the market compensation rate. So like I gave you the example of Pepsi, where a sales guy, let's say if I'm doing a compensation study, so I will look at what is my current compensation rate that I operate in. Then I will compare it with the market rate of the compensation rate that is prevalent in the market. So let's say if I am a beverage company and my sales employees are an X salary, what are the salaries that the market offers in the beverage industry? Then you compare your employees to the market rate. That where are your employees? Are you paying above the market rate or are you paying below the market rate? And you accordingly make alignments according to what is being paid out in the market. So that's how these factors, these studies, or these data and analytics are to be kept ready when you start deciding on making a compensation structure. Now the issues that you have to answer or you have to address while you're specifically talking about a compensation policy is, these are your challenges these are your hard hitting challenges which might hit you while you start designing a compensation structure. So one is, either would you like to pay for performance or you would like to pay for seniority. Do you understand the difference between the two? What do you mean by pay for performance and pay for seniority? Anybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Those employees who are working along from who are working from long period in the company, that is paid on seniority. And those employee who is working as a best level, doesn't matter he or she is a fresher or the young one or the very old employee. That is called paid on the basis of performance.
So pay for seniority is basically a pay which you give on basis on the tenure that the person has served in an organization. And pay
Yes,
for performance stands for when you start paying somebody for the kind of outputs that the person is generating. Okay. So performance is basis output and seniority is basis the tenure in the organization. Then what are your pay cycles? That is also some of your issues that you would have to decide. While having a compensation plan in place, you would want to understand and fix pay cycles as to, are you going to pay them weekly? Are you going to pay them on a daily basis? Are you going to pay them on monthly basis? Now, what all factors which will determine all this? You would start looking at your business model. Is your business model certain employees in your business may be required on a daily basis? If you're a factory which is operating, certain labor would be required on a daily wage rate basis. Some will be required on a monthly basis. Some might be required on a weekly basis. So those are factors again you would have to address. What I would request is all of you. So while you guys are listening to me, keep your microphones off. Unless you have to answer, please then only put them on. So then salary increase and promotions, those are areas again that you would have to decide how would you go about your salary increases, how would you like to go about your promotions. They understand even before you've got down into creating structures, you have just started looking at what are your areas that might hit you. And why do you do all of this, all these studies are undertaken so that when you design a compensation, you just don't design a compensation structure which just addresses your current issues. You design a compensation structure based on a certain philosophy so that it just doesn't addresses the current requirements, but is sustainable up to a certain future period. Because if you don't plan and you do it, so today you might be able to address and adjust a very short-term challenges of what you're facing right now through your compensation strategy. But then later you may realize that following that strategy led to more losses than savings for the organization. So which is where, and manpower cost is one of those biggest costs that an organization spends across. So I mean, it's the second or third largest cost that an organization spends in any organization. Okay. So which is why you need to be very careful while designing all the compensation structure and compensation philosophies for your organization. Probationary pay is another area that you would like to look at. How would you like to have it paid differently, or you would like to continue it at the same rate? Whether you would have paid leaves, unpaid leaves, will your compensation philosophy provide provision for a paid holiday, salary compression, geographic cost of living? So which in today's in corporate parlance you call as city compensatory allowances. So certain cost of living for a certain city is high and for certain cities is low. So so basically you categorize your cities into A, B, C category, where A cities are all metro cities, B cities are not metros, but then they are upcoming metros and more developed cities, and C cities are the cities which are undergoing development right now and are more remote and village sort of locations which in which you operate. So these are your challenges that you have to understand while creating a compensation policy. These are your issues, or these are your hard-hitting challenges that you might come across while you are designing compensation structure. So you need to think about all these areas well in advance, whether because you can't just design a philosophy basis basis your current needs. Like I said, you will have to account all of these in factors, so that the policy that you create or the compensation structure that you create doesn't just addresses the current needs, but also addresses the future needs of the organization. Now, when you start designing that compensation structure, it is very important for you to understand that there will be certain components which will be financial, certain will be non-financial, certain will be like a perquisites. So then you will start thinking on what areas or what would be a part of the compensation plans. So when I talk about financials, there will be two portions to it. One is direct and the other is indirect. So direct, because you will have a direct payout. So if your salary is earning X rupees, from X rupees minus Y will be the amount that will go out to one employee. Okay. Likewise, X minus Y into 400, 500, what is the number of employees? Is the employee that is the salary that is the money that will flow out of your account from the incomes that you've earned. So for that reason, it's very essential to understand what is the direct financial hits to you, what are indirect financial hits to you, and accordingly you will make your plans for your compensation programs. So what are direct financial accountabilities that the organization has towards the employee? So you'll be paying employees either wages, because if you're talking about people working for you on a daily wage basis, you will have wages being sent to them. So money will go in terms of wages, money will go in terms of salaries, money would go in terms of commissions, and money would go in terms of bonuses. So certain statutory parts would also be taken care of, because which is governed through laws, regulation, minimum wage rate, minimum bonus acts, okay, Factories Act. So they regulate certain amount of payment that needs to be made available for the people, and certain indirect costs that the employer has to bear towards the employee. So when you go about Factories Act, they would let you know what all health conditions, sanitary conditions are to be made. So that again is something that the company is doing for employees to ensure that everything remains intact. That is also a cost to you. So many organizations, when they create their compensation structures, they include everything in the CTC, while you might just be getting a very small portion, comparatively a smaller portion in hand compared to the CTC. But CTC may include your insurance plans like life insurance, health insurance, dental, disability plans that your organization have, any social assistance or benefits like a retirement plan, social security plan of workers, compensation, paid absence like vacations, holidays, sick leave. So these are your indirect ways of compensating an employee, where you are giving him which is equivalent to a money, but you are not giving them giving this money directly to in their hand, but goes more of like a indirect financial impact to you, which is being which for the benefit of which is being reaped by the employee. So once you start thinking of a compensation structure, you will have to start putting down wages, salaries, commissions, bonuses. You'll have to start thinking on how is the model of your business, what all are you going to take care of, and accordingly you will decide whether you're going to have wages, salaries, which acts does your company falls into, and accordingly look at those ingredients and components put together. Now the non-financial aspects is the reward and recognition bit, any perquisites that you offer to the employee. All those areas are your non-financial non-financial part of compensation structure. So the job, how's the job environment, how's the job itself, the role with which the worker is associated. Like I told you that, example of a pilot and a cabin crew. So if the job is challenging, it has more risk ability. Likewise, the cost of the cost associated with the person who's at a higher risk with a particular type of job will be paid differently to a person who's at a lesser risk of life or any other hazard which is being posed to you due to the job. So you will have to decide your competence accordingly when you look at these factors. So factor one, you will look at the total competence in terms of financial, which is direct and indirect, and then you would also start comparing or counting compensation programs too, which is you would start looking at job and the job environment in which the people operate. Now then, when you start putting everything into a place together, you will have to understand that you just cannot pay somebody only wages, only the indirect benefits, or only perquisites. These days, when we look at organizations have become so competitive that it has started influencing a lot of factors. For example, I'll tell you, when we talk about employees being covered under a minimum wages act, the factors that influence wage looks at the compensation philosophy of the organization. How's the job, worth of the job means how critical the job is, what sort of challenges are there in the job, what kind of technical risks are involved in the job. So that's also calculated. So employees' relative worth, does the employer have that kind of payment capability to make that kind of payment? The employer's ability to pay, your legal requirements. So legal requirements is again the legal acts that you have, and the collective bargaining power of the unions. How well can the unions negotiate, bargain, and all these factors. The cost of living, in which, let's say you put a factory. I'm sure everybody understands that if you put up a factory somewhere in a metropolitan region, it will be very difficult for you to buy that kind of space, land. Even if you're going to buy it, you will be buying it at a larger cost than compared to a B or a C city. So those kind of factors also come into play. The area wage rate. So what are the wage rates that are prevalent in that market, and what are the labor market conditions? So is the market cheap? Is the market readily available? So understand all these factors that we've talked about so far is only our base study. That we are trying to understand that how exactly the compensation philosophy of organization depends. Now, all of you, if you were thinking that we would be talking about creating a compensation structure and understanding how compensation happens, that certainly I have covered in the second half of the presentation. But currently what I'm trying to help you guys understand that although we just think of compensation from one point of view of where we can create a salary structure, explain people what components are there and have them distributed across the organization, that's not what compensation as a study in HR revolves around. It involves around a lot of factors where we start talking about the worth of the job, the risk that is involved with the jobs, the critical assessment of each job across the organization, the paying capacity, the purchasing power of the employer. All these factors put together helps you decide, create, and then put a strategy to how you create a compensation structure for your organization. Okay. Now getting down to the steps taking in compensation system, the steps in decision process. So how do you start deciding that what will my organization's compensation structure, which I said that I will explain in the second half of the presentation, should look like? You would start looking at these factors. So one, you definitely start comparing first with the competitor. So you start looking at the payment levels or the wage levels of the competitor. So other firms' rate. What are the union demands? So in case if you're operating in a union dominated market or a market where the unions are pretty strong, then you will have to look at what is the union's collective bargaining power and how much is the cost that they're asking for. then you will also have to account the cost of living. So if today I'm going to operate a company and open a company and I'm deciding on how will I keep my compensation rate or my compensation structure, I would look at these factors: the other firm's rate, the union demands, the cost of living that is available there, and whether as an employer do I have the ability to pay all these costs put together. So that is, these factors, number one, becomes very essential for anybody while deciding a compensation structure. Now step two is to establish a wage structure. Now when I talk about a wage structure is the areas or the grade or the factors that I was talking about कि एक मेरे salary structure में what all components will be important. So will there be, so I will evaluate the job first. I will rank the job in terms of the risk involved. I will classify them basis which requires higher skill, which is semi-skill, which can be done by a unskilled labor. I will do a point system rating to understand which jobs are critical for me. So basically I'm trying to do a job evaluation to understand that which job will be paid as what, and what will be my pay bands and pay grades. So when you do undergo a job evaluation exercise, you will get two results. You will get pay grades and you will get rate ranges. So pay grades means you will have grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, in whatever way you would want to grade your organization. And pay rate ranges will be, so let's say employees at grade 1 can get a minimum of X salary to a maximum of Y salary. So that is what you do. So unless you've undergone a job evaluation exercise, you would not be able to rate the pay grades and the rate ranges for the organization. So these are two very essential parameters that you undertake as a second step to decide the pay structure. And then you establish a pay for each individual on each job. Then you start looking at which individual is performing. So you do a performance appraisal information in terms of to understand what is that what is that a person does in the system, and how senior that person is. And then you try and mix and match the requirements in terms of whether you want to have a pay for seniority or pay for performance, and accordingly you start making your compensation structure. And which is where, like I said, you come to this very important graph, where you start asking these questions to yourself: which company is leading in the market? So if let's say company A, which is, let's say, okay, let's take a example and then start understanding this. So let's say I am a beverage company and I am operating. So I am producing, let's say, a drink which is more popular in the market. So what happens? I am, let's say, the leader in the market. So my pay, of course, will be a little higher than the market wage rate, because my markets are strong, I'm selling better. And then if I don't want to lose my employees to competition, I would want to have my pay rates a little higher than the minimum market range that is written here. Let's say if I'm an organization which is not performing so great, okay, and would want to have a compensation strategy which will evolve that, eventually I am able to somewhere be close to the market rate, but still lower than the market rate, in order to sustain my business also, and able to bring a little amount of parity to what is operating in the market to give a market rate. And having done all of this is when you start putting down your structures in place. So understand, whatever we've covered until so far was only to help you understand that how or what factors gets involved in creating a compensation structure. Now, having done a job evaluation exercise, having understood the market rates, your paying capacities and your wage levels and the competition wage levels, you start putting a compensation structure. When you start putting a compensation structure, so I will take you to another slide where I have talked about compensation structure for two companies, which is Infosys and TCS. So understand, and I talked about doing a job evaluation exercise. Can you see the second slide, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So when I talked about you having done a job evaluation exercise, you remember these are the bands I was talking about. So let's say in Infosys, they follow a band at L3, L3A, then there's a 3B, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 6A. This is how they follow a band. And then see, at each band, what they do is they start rating which roles will be covered. So a system engineer trainee can get a minimum salary of 2,70,000 to anywhere maximum up to 3 lakhs. So this is what you mean by in the other slide when I said that you will do a job evaluation exercise and you will and your result will be pay grades and pay rates. This is the result that I was talking about. So when you conduct a job evaluation exercise, you get to know what will be your grades. This is your grades, grade 1, 2, 3, 4. So you could not necessarily name it as L. You could put it as G, you could put it as A, you could put it as any alphabet the company would want to decide. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 also works. So you define which band is lower, which band is higher, and then accordingly you start fixing up rates at each band. So see, this is how a band for the entire organization looks like for Infosys. So system engineers are anywhere between 3.25 lakhs to 3,50,000. System engineers are anywhere between 4 lakhs to 4,75,000. Likewise, as you start growing, you see the salary starts increasing and it grows at that particular rate. Okay, so this is how they grade their engineers that they hire from campuses. Okay, so that's one of the structure that they follow. So this is just to give you an understanding at what exactly a job evaluation exercise will help you to get. Now, once you have this, what you start need to looking at a compensation structure. What kind of allowances, what kind of components do you form under a compensation structure? So once you start studying that, you understand that there's a basic salary that is to be given. Then there is the DNS allowances, or in today's in today's parlance, a lot of organizations call it as city compensatory allowances. So that is an allowance which is basically to ensure that if there's any inflation in the market, this particular component covers the entire inflation cost against which. Then there are basket of allowances. There's HRA, there is leave travel allowances, there are medical allowances, student education allowances, transport allowances, miscellaneous allowances. All these allowances are there. So having said that these are the components, you will first decide as to how much percentage of the total salary. So if it was 3 lakhs for 3,50,000 for a system engineer, out of 3 lakhs, what percentage of 3 lakhs will be basic salary? So let's say 20% of it will go as a basic. So you calculate 3,20,000, uska basic nikala aapne 20%, and you keep that as the basic salary for this person. Likewise, you calculate how much is going to be DA allowances, and if you say it is going to be 10% of the basic salary. So then if that the 20% value that you got of X, you could put 10% of that amount as DNS allowances. Basket of allowances that I'm talking about, you will accordingly put percentages and design. So all these, so for anybody to decide, you would first need what is the amount of basic salary that you give out of a particular component. So basis your basic, a lot of things will differ, because your house rent allowance is almost 50% of the basic salary. So not that this is stereotype. When you go to different organizations will have different percentage structure apportioned to different grades, basis which you start deciding how much percentage of your total salary, total CTC becomes your basic salary, and accordingly if the X percentage of those components from basic starts translating into dearness allowances, basket of allowances, and then you come to that total calculation. Once you've done that, so this is your fixed or the direct financial cost impact that is going to hit you. Then there are variable components. So people give X ratio or performance linked incentive. So a lot of organization decided on a total CTC basis. A lot of organization decided on basis the basic and the DA. So they decide on basis their basics and DA. So अगर आपको X ratio चाहिए या आपको आपका PLI चाहिए या annual component चाहिए, तो आपका variable pay जो है वो उन्होंने define कर रहा है कि कितना percentage as to how much percentage of the total salary will become your variable pay. And then the retiles, which is your statutory compliances, because you are covered by certain laws and regulation. So you have to provide for provident fund, which is mostly 12% of the basic plus DA, and your gratuity, which is 4.8% of basic plus DA. A lot of organizations these days have removed the concept of DA. What they do is to either they keep a city compensatory allowances, or what they do is they give you they give you already everything mentioned in the basic salary, just to avoid too much of hassle and too much of calculation. And then how do you come across a total CTC structure? You would start looking at the total value of your fixed component plus the retail plus the annual should be equal to 3 lakhs. And that is how you start bifurcating your entire compensation structure to come across to a compensation compensation layout, your layout for your salary slips as to how your salary will be paid out. Okay, so that's how the entire salary movement happens for Infosys. Likewise, if you look at not just this, they also give you a medical insurance. With C, I told you that there are financial and non-financial aspects. So this was the financial aspect, that was a direct financial impact to Infosys. Now, other than that, what all do they do for their engineers or the students that they hire from campuses? They give a medical allowances to them, which is extended to one themselves, their wife plus 2 children. Okay, so tomorrow if you get married after your campus life, it is being, or if you are already married also, it gets extended to you and to your wife. So there's a health insurance plan. Now this component may not be added. He's covered under a 4 lakh insurance, 40 lakh rupees of an insurance or whatever group insurance, for which the company is paying the insurance company a premium for you. So that is again a financial impact to the company, but it doesn't account under your entire compensation structure. So there are organizations which include these components also in the entire CTC, and there are some organizations that they don't. So Infosys doesn't include all these components under excuse me, under their compensation structure. So your leave travel allowances gets covered under the entire scheme of affairs that you're talking about. So total 15 years for the first, second year, and the total 20 years for the third years. So like however they have designed their allowances, your performance linked incentives, 75% of performance, 100% of performance, 50% of performance. So these are areas that some of the organization includes in their in their compensation structure. Some of them don't. Likewise, there are certain perks that they offer. So there are conveyance, there's lunch meal, there are entertainment expenses. Again, a CTC structure, depending on whether they are showing it in the CTC, might come under a total cost to the company. Otherwise, it becomes over and above what the organization provides to the employee. Now, the second comparison that we have is for a TCS. We look at TCS structure is pretty simple compared to Infosys. They have a base pay, they have a HRA, and they have a conveyance allowances, which becomes a total fixed allowance for them. That's the minimum that they are paying. Then they have components like leave travel allowances, health insurance premiums. So see, this is a company which is including the insurance premiums and medical reimbursements and professional social membership reimbursements. All these reimbursements that we looked at Infosys offering, but not included as a part of their compensation structure. TCS does includes them. So put that becomes part B. Retire becomes a statutory part where Provident Fund, gratuity and superannuation becomes their component, and all put together ABC becomes the compensation structure. So understand different organizations in the same domain. Infosys also operates in IT and TCS also operates in IT. The compensation structure that we looked at for any engineer which is picked up from campus, how can that particular employee grow, or that particular engineer or trainee can grow in the organization, from what salary it can grow to what salary it can reach. Okay, so that is again and then the compensation structure that is being followed by Infosys, where they talked about a very minimum expenses and allowances to be reflected in the salary, and more being offered over and above. So even if somebody is getting a 2.7 as a salary, there are certain X amount of percentage of money that he gets over and above what he is drawing in the organization. But in TCS, if a CTC is being told as 2.75, which means his in hand is going to be all the most smaller compared to what he is going to get at Infosys. So that is how the organizations define their compensation structure, and this is how the entire compensation structure goes into making. I'm sure everybody understands that Provident Fund is calculated at 12% of base pay, and the gratuity is calculated at 4.81% of the basic pay, and these becomes the mandatory calculations for any person who's going to be joining an organization, and which is covered under the Provident Fund Act. Okay. So with this, I come to the end of my session. Any questions for you from your end? Did you understand in the first place what was being explained, or it just went over the head? How many of you found it a little difficult to understand? Nobody?
So it wasn't difficult, but it was something new for me.
Okay, great. Thank you, Swapnil. Anybody else? Any questions? So I don't want to hear how the session was and how good I was, but let me understand if there are any questions that you've not been able to understand, or there's something that's bothering you. See, what I've tried to cover in this entire 40, 50 minutes, 45 minutes of a lecture